Hey, how's it going? And today I wanted to remake a video I did a while back on a slider control. And the reason I wanted to do this, there's a couple reasons. One is that my knowledge is improving. As my knowledge improves, I want to update videos that I did in the past that weren't necessarily the most efficient way of doing something. It was getting things done, but wasn't necessarily the most efficient. So I want to update it so I'm not leaving that less than perfect information out there. So this is just for a user controlled slider. So, but this, as far as I know, the most efficient way to do it. And the advantage of this is that we're essentially leaving the first person out of this completely. Like we're not going to be casting in the first person. There's no casting in this. We're using event dispatchers and a user interface to make this work. So to get started on this, we're going to make our user widget. And we'll just do this. And this is just, I'm just showing you the general lay of the land here. So this could be all improved. So I'm just going to get a canvas panel here, and I'm just going to drag it onto the scene like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some text. And we'll just put this right down here like that. The last thing, we're going to get our slider control, which is right here. And there's different sliders, and this should work with other sliders. And we can just pull this out here a little bit like that. And that's all we need to do. Now, I do need to make sure that my text block is a variable and my slider is a variable, right? Okay. And I'll come back here now. We'll come back here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a blueprint just for our interface. We're going to go here and create an actor. And oops, I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to come in here. I'll leave it called new blueprint. And what we're going to do in here is I'm just going to be on the event graph side of things. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to get our player controller because we need to enable mouse input. So we're going to go get player controller, and here we're just going to go enable input. And this should allow us to put this in here because that is a player controller. The next thing that we're going to do is create our widget. So we'll go create widget. Just like this. New blueprint widget. And we're going to go add to player screen. Add to player screen like that. And now if I hit this and hit that, and I put this, I drag my blueprint onto the scene like that. Come down here, I need to enable the input for player one. Let me go save all. And I hit play, and there's our slider. And you should see I'm able to drag it. You see that? So I have control over it. But then it doesn't stop me from moving around in the game and all the other stuff that I would normally do in the game. Okay, so that's all good, no errors. So all we need to do now is just create our lines of communication. One of the things is we're going to go into our new widget blueprint. So what we're going to do is I come on here to the graph on the widget blueprint here, and if I have the slider selected, you'll see there's this one says on value change, and we'll click this. And this is what's going to drive everything. So as this, I had a hard time explaining this in the past. As we drag the slider, it's going to be feeding out a value. So we need to send this value to our blueprint here. So we're going to send it and store it here temporarily, right? So let's put a place to store it here. So I'll just call this value, and we're going to call it a float. Here, a float like that. And it can be private. It doesn't need to be public. And then here, to send that value, we're going to use an event dispatch, which is the most efficient way to communicate because it's not being driven by a tick. It's just being driven by whenever I drag the slider. That's the only time that this channel of communication gets activated. I'll leave it called new event dispatcher. We'll click on it here. We'll compile it. And then down up here, we can add an input. And the input, we can leave it called new parameter. And it's going to be I need to pull this out because I can't see. We want to switch this to a float, just like that. Compile and save. And now you see when we hit it, it's going to push out our slider value. But how do we get this to here? Well, we bring our event dispatcher on and we go call. And you see all we have to do is hook this up here and this up here. So when we drag the slider now using the event dispatcher, every time we drag on it, it's going to update and send the value over here. Now how do we get that value though? Well, we need to just drag off of here because that's a reference to our blueprint. And we're going to go assign new event dispatcher, this right here. Whoops. Right here. Let me put a little reroute node in here like this. And this just goes in here. And you'll see here's the value coming out of here. So all I need to do is hit Alt and drag. And we just set this value here. So now this value is going to be updated here on our blueprint. So once this value is updated here, now we just need to send it back to the new widget blueprint to update our text display here. So there's different ways to do it, and one way is we could actually use an event dispatcher, but I'm going to just use blueprint interface for this. What we're going to do is come in here, we're going to right click, go to blueprint interface, we'll just leave it called new interface. And here again, we'll compile, we need it has an input, and so this is a channel of communication. So we're going to click there, we'll leave it called new parameter. Let me pull this out, and it's going to be a float again, right? Now remember, on the blueprint interface, we implement it on the receiving side. So this interface is going to be communicating from our new blueprint here to our new widget blueprint, right? So this is going to be sending this value to here. So this is going to be on the receiving side. So then we need to implement the interface on this side. So we'll go onto the graph, class settings, and we're going to come down here to add interface, and we should see our new interface in here. New interface right there. It pops up here. And now we have some way of communicating. So if I double click that, you'll see this comes in here, and there's our output there. And what we'll do is I'll get my text block, drag it on here, click there, drag up here, go set text, like that, and then just hook this into here, and this into here. And this will auto convert once I put it in. So now you'll see, if I hit, everything should be hooked up. So if I can walk through this, we put this blueprint in our scene. This blueprint is in our scene, and it's set up to accept player 0 input. And then we have this interface here with this slider. When we pull this slider, oh, one thing, we can change the value here. Like if I want to put 100 in there, I can put 100 in there too. So let me compile and save that on the min and max value. And then there's a starting value too. So when we pull this slider, it's going to, as the slider is pulled, only when the slider is pulled, it's going to send that updated value by way of an event dispatcher to this blueprint. We're going to get that over here, and then we're going to update this value, right? Then using this new interface here, well here, it's going to come in through the interface, see from new interface, that value, and then we'll change our text block here. So let's just see if it works. I think, let me make sure I saved all and go play. Now here, when I'm playing the game, you can hit Shift F1 for mouse control. And look, if I drag it, why isn't it changing? So let's see, what did I mess up here? Oh, I didn't call from here. Sorry about that. So I need to call the interface. I actually just need to search for new interface right here. Sorry about that. That was my mistake. Well, that's things that happen. So we set the value and then we didn't make the call. So then this just plugs into here, this plugs into there, and our target is actually over here. So that was a breakdown on my part there. Now it's hooked up. So that completes our communication. Sorry about that. I mean, to be fair, I can see why a lot of people don't necessarily do this. This isn't something that you just learn in a day. I mean, it's taken me months and months to figure this out, and I'm always learning something new and different that I could do better too. So it's not like I don't fault anybody that just trying and making tutorials just because I know how hard it is to get good information and to put things out. So that's why I'm doing this. So anyway, let's compile and save that, and we'll go play. Now if I hit Shift F1 for mouse control, there, see the value changing? So this, as far as I know, is the most efficient way of communicating. And see how we didn't even involve our first and third person player, and that we used event dispatchers and a interface to do this. So just to go back and look, there's our interface. Here is our blueprint that's in the scene, and then here is our widget. This is the receiving side of the user interface, and this is the sending side of the event dispatcher.